Welcome to the program. In recent years, there has been a flurry of online stores in the country, selling anything from clothes, tech, accessories, home decor, and anything else you can think of. They offer the convenience to buy items and have them delivered straight to your doorstep, and some of them claim to actually offer exclusive merchandise. All of which are great selling points. So why are we talking about these online stores? Well, the terms and conditions of purchase. Some of these will have it on their business pages that there are no refunds. Others will offer a no returns policy, while others do not have any exchanges, with some having all three of these as their terms of service. With a business model that does not offer the opportunity to fit clothing or see the item before making a purchase, how is this fair to the consumer? What does the law say? The consumer in Botswana is protected by the Consumer Protection Act. To understand what it is, we're joined by a consumer rights activist at the Consumer Watchdog, Richard Harriman. Richard, thank you so much for joining us on First Issues, affording us your time. We're going to be talking to you today about online stores, the flurry of them that's been coming up in the country. But first, let us understand, are online stores held to the same standard as physical stores when it comes to how they operate and the law, basically?
Despite what some people might think, our law is actually reasonably up to date. If you look at the Consumer Protection Act, it talks about things like direct selling. It doesn't specifically talk about online, but it talks about mail order as well. And mail order, traditionally, in the old-fashioned way, we'd find an insert in a newspaper and order things by phone or by posting things. Mail order is these days, in 2024, mail order is online. You go to a website instead of a brochure, perhaps you see in the newspaper, and you click and you pay, and it's mail order. And the Consumer Protection Act talks specifically about mail order in quite a lot of detail and gives consumers certain rights. We also have other acts. We have other bits of law like the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act, which also is specifically about buying and selling things electronically, so online. So we do have laws that protect us.
Like I said at the beginning, there's been a flurry of online stores, and some of them have quite interesting rules and regulations and terms and conditions that govern how they offer service or how they run the business. For example, they'll say no exchanges, they'll say no returns, they'll say no refunds, etc. I want to find out from you, what are your thoughts, but of course in line with what the Consumer Act says?
Section 15, the starting point, the most important part of the Consumer Protection Act is Section 15, which basically says things we buy must do what we think they should do. So you buy a cell phone, you should be able to make calls. You buy a laptop, you should be able to write documents and do spreadsheets. You buy flour, you should be able to bake bread. We have a right to expect things should do what we're told they're going to do. That's the starting point. Section 16 of the Act also talks about the fact what happens when something goes wrong. Now, we've discussed this many times before, but the Act, the Consumer Protection Act of 2018, says that if something is faulty, if it doesn't do what Section 15 says it should do, which is whatever we were told it would do, within 6 months, we have a right to return it for free at the supplier's expense, and the supplier can then choose whether to repair something, replace it, or refund us. They can choose. So this business about saying, oh, no refunds, no exchanges, no. You can choose which one to do, but you have to offer all three. So
then when the purchase is within our borders, because sometimes you'd find that I don't want to say a third party, but a middleman who is facilitating. I'm the go-to person who's selling for a merchant and then who's across the border, or I buy items from said international merchant and then I sell it as my own in Botswana online. Mm-hmm. Does the same still apply?
It does. But the key thing is, where are you selling from? If you're the person selling it and you bought it from China, if you're selling it in Botswana, at least the customer can come to you and say, hang on, you let me down. And then it's up to you as a supplier, because another thing the Consumer Protection Act says is it doesn't really matter whether it's the supplier, the manufacturer, the importer, the distributor, they all have to warrant that the product is good enough.
As a responsible customer, what you can do to protect yourself against such merchants?
I think the very first thing is that find out the merchant's reputation. Talk to other people they've supplied. And any decent supplier in China or Turkey or wherever, if you say to them, can you give me some names of other people you deal with just so I can ask them how you work? Are you reliable? A decent company will say, of course we can. Of course, we're happy to give you references. We're happy to tell you about this person and that person who are happy customers, and here's their phone numbers. A reputable company would be delighted to do that. They wouldn't hesitate at all. If a company isn't prepared to do that, you have to ask yourself why.